Chag Sameach. I was once in Los Angeles in the very Jewish neighborhood that I used to live in, and I was on the way to shul on Shabbat, and I met one of the previous teachers at the rabbinic seminary where I was studying to be a rabbi on the road. We're headed in the same direction. And we began to talk about the Jewish people and Oy vey and all the struggles that we were going through. And I said, well, the Shekhinah is in exile. God's presence is in exile. Right? Since the destruction of the temples and our long exile, we've gone from trial to trial, a long and difficult road. And we've often wondered, where is God in all of it, right? Where is God? God's in exile. And he looked at me intensely and he said, yes, but Shechinte begalute, the Shekhinah is in the exile. It's with you in the exile. It's with you through everything you're going through. This is another really important idea. Even though the temple was destroyed, even though the Shekhinah left Israel, but then it followed the Jews to the four corners of the world, wherever we were. It is where we are. And there is an idea in our tradition that yes, it was a disaster to lose our land, to lose our temple, and we pray about it so often. And as we traveled throughout the world, we also carried a spark of it with us. There's an idea that is expressed long ago by Isaiah the prophet, who says that we should be a light unto the nations. We have something to give to the world. And so yes, we have our special relationship with God. The Jewish people have a story that is all particular to who we are. We have a distinct culture and an identity and a mode of being that we've worked very hard to preserve through all kinds of situations. But within that story is also a mission that we need to be open to the outside world and be giving to the outside world as Jews. And another of Isaiah's beautiful images is of the temple as a house of prayer for all peoples. And at the beginning of the end of days of the Messianic age, all of humanity will make pilgrimage to Jerusalem to pray together to the one God. And this is the end of the historical journey of the Jews that begins with one person, the first Jew, and his wife and his family, and a tribe, and the people who encounter God at Sinai, and they go through so many episodes where they're kept separate and distinct, and worshiping, living in their own distinct fashion, with their own dress and language, as we discuss and talk about at Pesach, and the pride in our journey. But the end vision of all of that is a completely universal vision, distinctions disappearing, one humanity, one God, a house of prayer for all people. And that our particular path through history is a means of achieving the universal, a specific mission in the world. And interestingly, it's the Torah that is the vehicle for that mission, the same Torah that is God's love letter to the Jewish people, that is our story, our beloved story through the centuries, God's commandments to our people, not to any other. And the second half of the Torah is all of God's period spent with the Jewish people, training them and getting them to stand on their own 2 feet, as we saw today, as God himself is both enraged and enraptured by his chosen people, his treasured people. And then much of the first half is all about just one small family in the vastness of the world. Abraham and Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah and Rachel, and all of their descendants. It's our good book, as Tevye says. And we dance with it, and we cherish it, and we still write it the same way as we did a few days ago, as we have done for generations, writing beautiful letters with beautiful crowns on them, every one precious. Right? The Midrash tells us Rabbi Akiva used to find new ways to interpret the Torah just based on the crowns on top of the letters in the Torah. This is the book. This is the book. This is the book. Our book that will ultimately reveal to us how to create peace and be one with all of humanity. And the Torah, with all of its endless depth that we're able to mine every year, year after year, and it connects us to the infinite divine wisdom, is going to help us grow and evolve and become more and more expansively minded people, and will guide us into bringing divine light to all nations. Until, as the Midrash says, at the end of days, we will, all the peoples of the earth, stand in a big circle and point in the middle and say, this is the God that we were waiting for. We'll all be guided to understand that the source is one, that we are all children of the same eternal source, all made in the divine image. And so when our tradition speaks of 70 faces to the Torah, Shivim Panim, it is to let us know that there is an infinity. Shivim represents an infinity in the human sphere in our tradition. Two different ways of approaching the Torah. The Torah doesn't have just one way, but an infinity of ways, of unique teachings, and each one distinct and appropriate for the vastness of differences between human beings in this world. Rabbi Natan of Nemirov teaches, just as every human being's face is completely different, everyone's approach to the Torah is equally as different. Because no same two people have the same face. No same two human beings relating to divine wisdom have the exact same path. And this is also the view of Torah that we're asked to contemplate on Simchat Torah. Not only our love letter from God to the Jewish people, but also our responsibility and pathway to then bring that light to the nations, to bring the presence to all. Not just our mitzvot and our commandments and our stories, but a guide to wisdom and to life that can fit any human being and meet them where they are. Not only the record of our people, the first history, but the vehicle to create fellowship and love and peace for all people. And so when we dance, as we did today with the Torah and Simchat Torah, we are dancing with our chosenness, with our specialness as a Jewish people. We're also dancing with the responsibility that it carries to bring that specialness to the four corners of the world. And we are dancing with our belief that ultimately we are all equal, all made in the image of God. And we're dancing while holding on to our divine mission to be a light unto the nations and to create one day the house of prayer for all peoples. And we are dancing not only with the ability of the Torah to inspire us, but with our conviction that it has a face that can offer wisdom and guidance to each and every human being who approaches it with love and sincerity. Chag Sameach.